Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back welcoming you to the Friday night chop session with Stormybman for this Friday, November 19th, 2021. And we're calling this episode 132 Simply Champion. I want to say welcome to everybody that's out there. Hope you guys had a chance to catch the fights that were on the zone this evening, because we're going to be talking about that a little bit and some other things, news and everything like that that's going on in the sport of boxing, and heading up tomorrow's big fight that's going to go on, the showdown between Terrence Bud Crawford taking on Showtime's Sean Porter for his WBO welterweight title. And before we get to cooking really good, let me introduce my co-host here. We got Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens in the house, fresh off of the card that was Demetrius Andrade versus Jason Quigley. What's going on with you, Reggie? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Can't complain.
I had timed this one kind of good because I put the start time for like 10:30, so I gave myself a little bit of cushion this time, and that's why I didn't just go really. I did all the things I needed to do before going live, and it's interesting because Demetrius Andrade helped us out with that. He made quick work of his duties this evening, and let's just go ahead and kick it off with that because it was exciting. And I got something to say about it. You might have something to say about it, but we're gonna go ahead and get down into that because once again, a lot of people don't really care for the DAZN app, and there are fighters over there that we would like to watch, but they haven't been in good fights, and the matches aren't being made that could be made, and with Ed Hearn and Matchroom heading things up over there, they try to stall things out and they give all these unnecessary rematch clauses and everything. So it's just, he's offended people, from the very start. So I can understand the lack of support regarding those things. But at the end of the day, when you love the sport of boxing, when they do put on certain matches, you do want to be available for them. So I'll go ahead and give the floor to you, Reggie, and I know you caught that, but pretty much not the rest of the card, right? So we could kick it off with that, so you'll have something, to contribute on that.
Yeah, no, I thought Andrade came out here and he walked through this dude. He did what he's supposed to, man. He made easy work Quigley, man. He put some pounding on Quigley's head, and it was even more than him even really pounding Quigley. I think once Quigley felt the power, and then when he started seeing Andrade come in after him, he was trying to get up under stuff. He was getting so low down to stuff he had nowhere else to go but the ground. Andrade was landing some very, very heavy shots on this dude's head, and he was really trying to make a statement. He was definitely making a statement, but don't know how many people heard that statement or how many people observed it. But I don't think he did too much justice for himself in the post fight. I don't think Triple G is going to hang around this game for too long. I don't know what Andrade has left in store. And it was pathetic listening to Eddie Hearn talk about him begging fans to help him to make the fights. It's like, what's the purpose of you? Now I think Andrade took a little issue to that because he did walk over and take the microphone from Eddie Hearn and tell everybody, go ahead and go home. It was like, it's pathetic seeing him in that situation. And I think Andrade's probably realizing he has made another huge error in his career by coming into another promoter that has kind of stalled, his progression within the game. But tonight's performance was, I can't complain about it. He did what he's supposed to do. He walked right through Quigley, made very, very easy work of Quigley, and it's just next. When does he get the next fight? But I hope and even not so much as just having to chase after these guys. And as much as they want these other dudes, just stay active. That's it.
Yeah. Let me say this, man. I've never doubted the talent of Demetrius Andrade. I've always had a question about his mental approach to the sport that he participates in, because he's just kind of like one of those way out brothers. You know, when I was in high school, there was this clique of brothers in high school. Back then, Reggie, they called them preppies, and they used to get these stupid haircuts. And it was before like the box cut became famous. It was right before that. But they would cut their lining back where the head would go back to like the point of the center of the forehead would be like that's the point, the pyramid. They cut the head back, so if your hairline went straight across or was kind of rounded across, they would shave the edges off and make it look like your head came to a point, like they draw Wolverine's hair in the comic books. It's like these guys used to wear their hair like that, wear these Argyle sweaters and penny loafers and stuff. Man, it's like these guys are weird, you know. And Demetrius Andrade strikes me as that kind of guy that's off cuff like that with his personality and everything. But in the boxing ring, that man has some ability. And I think everything else overshadows, because people just find him quirky. They find him an odd piece of something, but the man can box, he can punch. And now tonight, what was on display was one of the number one reasons that people are afraid of this guy. And I use the word afraid because though we know that boxers aren't afraid to step in the ring, but some of them are hesitant and apprehensive about putting their records online or looking really bad against someone who's highly skilled and also can get you out of there with the pop. His last few outings, he did not come in with the type of determination that he did tonight. And that's what I really loved about this evening's performance out of Andrade, because he came in there, to me, I would like to understand him to articulate it, but I don't think he could. But he was sending a message tonight. You know, at that last press conference for Canelo against Billy Joe Saunders, Canelo tried to embarrass him in the press conference and everything, telling him to get out of here and you're a horrible fighter and this and that. You fight nobody and you just want payday. All of those comments that we now kind of attribute to Canelo when we jokingly refer to him. One thing is certain. Demetrius Andrade is probably the best fighter that Canelo has not fought in his past 7 or 8 fights. And not only did he avoid the man at 154, but he avoided him at 160. And when he made offers of about coming up to 168, Canelo showed no interest yet and still. But now tonight you saw why. Typically, Andre moves around. He gives angles. You know, he can be that quirky southpaw that catch me if you can kind of thing. But even Nassim Richardson has said this about him. Not only can a kid box, he can punch. And you never know where the punches are coming from, because just like Andrew Charles is stating in the chat, he says he throws punches from all kinds of angles. Absolutely. And they still have pop on them. So usually the punch that gets you in trouble the most is the one that you don't see. Quigley came in tonight as a live opponent. He has done some things in the sport of boxing that has given him a consideration toward being a tough opponent. Andre took him totally out of the fight this evening. He didn't even let the guy get a sweat going before the guy was on the canvas. I love that. Mike Tyson used to do it to people all the time. And as he began to gather moss doing those things, the interest in his fights picked up tremendously. If Andrade can go out there and start taking it to people like that, getting them up out of there, there will be a swell and a demand for someone like Charlo or even Canelo. Step it up and get this guy a fight now. It's time to stop mulling about. It's time to get in there and get busy. But when he came out there, I noticed right off the bat, Reggie, from when the bell rang, he went to the center of the ring and he established his position. He didn't back up. He didn't move around. He was like coming at Quigley with purpose. I love that. Then when he was throwing his shots had steam and heat on them. And Quigley's eyes got kind of big when some of the punches whiffed around his head. A couple of them landed to the body and off the shoulder. And he could tell that Andrade had something. When he tried to fight back and get in those exchanges, that's when he found out that he had hand speed too. And he had strength. He put the guy down. He pushed him down. He knocked him down. All of that within 1.5 rounds of action. There was no way Quigley was going to be allowed on this night to get going, get warmed up, or never even think about seeing the final bell. And I don't think anybody knew outside of maybe Andrade and his camp that he was going to attack like that, because we haven't really seen him attack like that. We've seen him go after guys when he get them hurt and stuff like that. But he started this fight out with purpose. And I love that. It's sending a message, you know, for all of those that want to be pretenders and those who want to be but aren't, and those who are padding their accomplishments by fighting fighters that on paper they're already, you know, giving favor to defeat and everything. Now you're going to have to deal with this guy. He puts together one or two more efforts like that, and the wheel will turn. And that's what some of these fighters don't realize. If he finally got it, great for him. I would like to think that he has, and this wasn't just a night where he tried something and it worked out for him, because he does have a toolbox full of talent where on any given night against any type of opponent, he can serve himself with some purpose. You know, Charlo made the mistake of calling out Benavidez, even though he's not at 168 and Benavidez is. Benavidez was like, hey, I'll come down to 160 and fight you. And he might even say the same thing about Demetrius Andrade. But I'll tell you this, Demetrius Andrade can knock Benavidez out because he can throw punches from all angles, as we've talked about. He's got more pop on his punches than either Canelo or Charlo. And if he's going to walk forward against Demetrius Andrade can put punishment on him where he could suffer, you know, closed eye, cut eye, busted up. That can happen. And maybe that would be the fight, because if he gets in there and he's able to turn back a challenge from a guy like David Benavidez, where else can anybody go? What else can they say? Because he would have taken on a challenge that neither Charlo or Canelo was interested in, and he has cemented himself as a stable force in that middleweight, super middleweight division. So that's what I think about his performance tonight. Hats off to him. All the stuff he was saying over the microphone and everything, I was like, you know, it's mute time, because he just doesn't have the gift of gab. But his performance when the bell rings is undeniably good. And I want to see more of that. Please build on that. Please come back in a couple of months. Don't just take the next 8 months off or something. Come back again. keep your face out there in front of people. And like I said, if it comes down to it, let him be the guy that faces David Benavidez. And I guarantee you all a great matchup and a highly action-packed fight. And I would love to see it. So those are my opening thoughts on that, Reggie.
Yeah, no, that's all I got on it, man. I just want to see him get back active and not have to worry on who's not going to make the fights. Just run through whoever's in there. And if he's going to move up, I don't know about that David Benavidez thing. I favor David Benavidez over Andrade, but maybe Andrade should take his talents up to 168, move out of the division. If he's not going to get those guys to fight him, or just create his own path. And I think that's what the problem with many fighters in boxing, who, you know, they sit and lie in wait looking for those who have names and have, you know, I guess positions based on however the angle they look at it, whatever perspective they look at it. I think Andrade has the same level of claim to his name, and he needs to start using it. But it's like he plays second fiddle trying to chase after guys. He needs to lay claim to who he is, what his name is, and just fight. Stop playing in the second position, because you're submitting who and what you are by chasing after guys, saying guys won't fight you. Same thing I see in Gary Russell as well. Same thing from both these dudes. Just take fights. You ain't got to fight nobody with a name. Just go in there, keep doing what you did to Quigley. And hell, you get a large group of fans that'll follow that. Man, this is Andrade. He's running through everybody. Do that, and it'll force these other guys to go down there and fight you, rather than you having to try to run up for them. But that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I'll say this. In his fight against Kyron Davis, you know, that opening round, that Kyron was boxing and moving on his toes and everything, he was having some success against Benavidez, making him miss and, you know, jabbing. And I said that if that's his style and he can fight like that all night, that's a great thing, because that's exactly what a guy would need to be able to do against Benavidez. But I'm going to tell you this. Andre can do that for 12 rounds, because that's a part of the style he has. He hits much harder than Kyron Davis. He has much more boxing experience than Kyron Davis. He's a former Olympian. Listen, just like Emmanuel Stewart said about Tyson Fury years ago, before Fury became the successful heavyweight that he became, he said it came down to two guys, Fury and Deontay Wilder, that he saw them being the fighters of the future in the division. Nassim Richardson said the same thing about Demetrius Andrade. Look it up. It's like a lot of people forgot about that. A lot of people didn't listen to that. And a lot of people weren't respectful of what Nassim Richardson brought to the game as a trainer, with his intellect and insight on boxing at that time. They just wasn't feeling him. And I know that a lot of that has to do with, sometimes it's a bias and prejudice against a person for what they stand for and their beliefs. And we do know the brother Nassim was a Muslim. So it's like, you know, but the man knew boxing inside and out. He helped Shane Mosley. You know, he helped Bernard Hopkins. He helped so many fighters get to another level. Hassim Rockman. He's helped a number of guys in the sport. And whenever they had him as a part of what they were doing out of their camps, he was very successful. But he was one of the ones that sounded the horns and banged the drums for Demetrius Andrade. You know, and he's no longer around with us, but I never forgot what he had to say on that. And it's very interesting that this young man is still there, and there is like a cavern carved out around him where people don't want to come close. And you don't hear people calling him out. You hear people calling out Charlos all the time, both brothers. You hear them calling out Triple G. You hear them calling out Danny Jacobs. You hear those sounds, but you don't hear the sounds about this young man. And if I sound like, oh, Stormy all of a sudden wants to talk about Demetrius, it's because he hasn't been fighting. It's because of his personality and the quirkiness. But what I saw in his performance tonight was just the type of performance he needed, because he sent a message with that. Whether, like I said, he was doing it directly and intently, or it just happened to be that way. But I know this, with ring IQ, he never let that guy get warmed up, because if Quigley was able to get warmed up, it was going to be a tougher fight for him. And just like he fought that guy a couple of fights ago, he got hit and wobbled and everything. And people would say, oh, his chin is going and stuff like that. Well, this is how you solve and resolve those issues. You get them before they can get you. And he's talented enough to do those kind of things in a purposeful manner. And I just like to see more of it. So, but great performance. Hats off to Demetrius Andrade for his outing tonight, and I can't wait to see him again, because I want to see what he does on his next go round. Earlier on the card, we had a fight that it was a card of championship fights tonight too. 4 fights, 4 championship fights, and they were all pretty good in their own way. The previous bout that saw Julio Cesar Martinez taking on that was McWilliams Arroyo. Very interesting fight, the way it started out, Reggie. These two guys, Puerto Rican and Mexican, another war, they came out trying to take each other's heads off, with Arroyo scoring a knockdown early in the bout in the first round over Martinez. But Martinez just looked more like stunned. He wasn't really hurt. And he gets up, and just moments later, inside the same first round, he puts Arroyo down. I'm like, okay. I start rolling up my sleeves, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And in the second round, Martinez, who was already amped up to 10 when the bout started, I think he was on 12 or 15 when this round 2 started, because he went after Arroyo right away, put him on the canvas again, and there was a clash of heads that opened up 2 cuts over Arroyo's right eye. And when the bout, when they went to the corners after that second round, he elected that he didn't want to go back out there. I think he felt that pressure that Martinez was turning up against him, and he, being the elder guy, I think he's like 35, 36 years old now, Arroyo, he wasn't interested in going out there and getting into that type of fight that would be back and forth and give and take and whatnot. And he told his cornerman to stop the fight. Even though the doctors looked at it and said he could go, they kept asking him if he wanted to go, and he kept saying he couldn't see, even though his eye was wide open and he was looking right in the doc's face and everything. So they ruled the fight a no contest, no decision. So, but I felt that Martinez was going to be on his way toward a stoppage. That little young man, Reggie, I've seen him fight a few times before. We've even covered him on a post-fight show or two. He's got a lot of fight in him, man. He's a little dude, but he packs big dog in himself. And he'll be out there again probably in another couple of months. I don't think they'll rematch, because Martinez may really figure it out that Arroyo just, found a way out of that. And it's not the type of fight that benefits Arroyo as far as a rematch or whatever, because he's probably just going to get drilled again. So those are my thoughts on that one. I don't know if you saw that one, because that was the co-main, but it started out pretty doggone good, and I just wish it could have come to a real conclusion outside of, how it ended like that.
Yeah, no, I checked it out, and I thought that was a very slick veteran move for who was it? That was Arroyo who got out of the fight.
Yeah,
very very slick veteran tactic, to feel like he couldn't see to get up out of that fight.
yeah, because he felt that heat coming, man. The kid was turning it up, and see, that Martinez, he fights like that. I remember one fight, his nose was busted real bad and he was battered in the face, but he would pump his gloves together and he was like, come on, let's go. You know, tough little hombre right there, man. And he's a champion. That fight was for the WBC flyweight championship. So he's battle tested, man. And he'll be out there again in a couple of months and he'll be ready to put it on somebody else if they don't put it on him. But I'm going to tell you, just because you cut him, bust his nose or mouth or knock him down, the fight ain't over then. The fight might be just starting. He's a tough little hombre, as I said. So, very interesting stuff there, man. The fight before that was the WBA and IBF. That was a bantamweight, super bantamweight championship fight between Akhmadaliev and Jose Velasquez. You know, Akhmadaliev is that guy from Chile, and he's like a really tough, strong man down there. He reminds me of Humberto Gonzalez, and he got very strong body punches. He has a decent chin. He's very compact, and he's got good stamina. But in this fight, he was fighting a guy that took the fight on a short notice. I think it was 2 weeks or whatever, because his original opponent pulled out of the fight. That was a very good fight, Reggie. I would recommend you go back and watch that one, because the Velasquez, who came in as the replacement, he found a round to come and go after Akhmadaliev's body. And man, was he taking it to him. He was going after his body like the young Mike Tyson used to go after them old fat sloppy heavyweights in the 80s. He was putting it on him, and dude had to make an adjustment to weather that and come back. And he went. He later picked up the tempo and controlled the fight from a boxing standpoint. But most guys can't stand in there with Akhmadaliev. So it's like the fact that guy could take his shots, and he came up from a lower weight, 118, I think they said, to fight this fight at 122. Very interesting stuff, man. We're getting some pretty doggone good boxing in this fourth quarter of the year, Reggie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it's going down. This is where they're making their money up. This is where they're picking the bags up.
Really, I mean, we're seeing, like, just in the past, since October, several fight cards, several pay-per-views, and all of them have been winners, whether who you like fighting or don't like fighting or whatever. Been some really good stuff. And if we could go into 2022 with this, that would be nice. I want to say salute. I see Junior the Truth is out there with us this evening. Salute to you, Junior. Big Texas. Cletus Smith is out there. Silvestrio, Bruce Goes. I see Silvestrio. Thought I saw Thrill Hill out there. Yeah, Thrill Hill is out there. JJ is out there. Andrew Charles is with us again. A lot of people. Watcher is out there. We did a great In the Eye of the Storm, Watcher and I, yesterday. So if you guys didn't get a chance to check that out, please check it out on the replay. Great conversation with Watcher, man. The guy's got a great channel himself, and he says some good stuff out there. Mark Stearns is out there. MPWTF is out there. Will McCladdy is out there. He says, what it do, Reggie Owens? Love your channel, my G. TS Boxing, my man Tyrone, he's out there. He says, Andre deserves a Charlo or Triple G fight. Yes, sir. DT is with us. Big homie Coop is out there. He says, salute Seafood. Backsmack the like button. People, class is in session, so pay attention. There you go. That's my juice right there. Yeah. Yavi is out there. He says, yes, sir. See, Yavi, I got your name correct now. 88 Sports Talk. Who else we got? We got a few people out here, man. It's pretty chat moving right along. But yeah, Reggie, did you have any final thoughts on Andre and where you might like to see him go next or whatever? I know you said something about just take fights. You know, if none of the specific guys will fight him, I'm of that belief as well. Just take fights, man.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I want. Just get the fights. Take whatever's out there. Stop chasing after guys. You got to build. You got to build a base around him. He has a base. He needs to recognize that. He needs to recognize that people have been following for him. He can't just sit back here and begin to age himself. Like, he cannot take a Gary Russell approach to this damn sport. Just fight whoever it is. Other people ain't got to know who they are. They know who you are. And just take it and continue to do what you did to Quigley. Quag these fools. Then now you're going to start getting these fights. And that's it.
Yeah. Just go out there and start banging them out, man. And when you do that, people will take note, you know. They take note like, man, he ain't playing around. You know what I mean? And that's what you want. Those are the kind of whispers that you want. And when people start seeing you putting people on the canvas, they're going to start imagining, what if he gets in there with so-and-so? And they're going to start clamoring for those fights. And it's kind of hard to hold somebody at the door when it's producing those exciting results. And fans like to see that. Now, you got a small base of followers that will want to safeguard their favorite guy from him, right? It's like, that's just natural. It's already happening, but that ain't going to work because the networks smell that money for possible pay-per-views or just main features. So it's like, you can force your hand, but you got to be exciting. He can't be in there like he was a few fights ago, going many rounds with guys that he should just be getting up out of there. See, he went in there with purpose tonight, and it made a difference. You do that, they can't. You see a highlight reel knockout like that? That guy came in there, Quigley, you know, the Irishman. He come in there, had his green on and all of that, and that green was right there on the canvas. Man, them people didn't like that, Reggie. But you can't deny that it's highlight reel material. So down goes the Irishman, right? And then it's like people be like, well, we want to see him against this guy. Well, see him against that guy. Put him in there with this. Next thing you know, he got fights lined up. And just keep knocking them off. Just like Floyd was doing. Floyd was knocking people off, making their fan base madder and madder and madder. He didn't do a lot of the talking, but it's like his actions in the ring. Because it's like the old Kung Fu movies, Reggie, when the boss is trying to hide behind his men from the hero. And the hero coming through the building, beating up everybody. Then the boss keep shoving more guys out there. Hey, get him. You know, you, get out there. You know, and it's like he just knocking them off one by one by one. That's how Andre can get it. He can make it, man. He can make it just like that. Because they really get mad when you beat up their national representatives. You know what I'm saying? They get mad, man. They'll put one together for him to fight, and he can knock him off too, and then start jumping over to other national fighters, huh? Get them too, huh? And eventually Canelo gonna either have to say, well, sayonara, or get in there and take his beating like a man, as Mike Tyson would say. So, but yeah, let's get into some boxing news, Reggie. We had a few news items come out this week. You might have a couple that I don't know about, but one of the ones I wanted to kind of touch on right away was, and I did a video on this, I wanted to touch on the one about your boy, Dillian White, man. It appears that the WBC has taken him out of their graces. It appears that the WBC said, Dillian, get out. We don't care how long you've been waiting around or whatever. You ain't fought nobody, and we ain't just gonna give you a freebie, huh? We really just had you up there blocking Deontay Wilder from AJ when he had the belts. And now since AJ don't have the belts no more, and you got Tyson Fury with a belt, and you got Alexander Usyk with all the other belts, we don't need you, Mike. They got him. I love it, Reggie, because he been sitting around. Remember, he was like, oh, for 600 days, I was like, listen, man, Deontay Wilder told him a long time ago, fight Dominic Brazil, and I'll fight you. Or fight Luis King Kong Ortiz, and I'll fight you. It's like he didn't want to fight anybody that had status up in the top 10 or whatever. Well, he messed around with Alexander Povetkin, and as you see on this highlight reel playing on the Jumbotron here, that was the end result of that. Now, yeah, he caught Povetkin in a rematch or whatever, but you know what? Povetkin got him first. He looked like, hey, if you guys watch the Doctor Strange movie, huh? He got this thing he do, and the ancient one. They hit you and knock you out of your physical body, and your body kind of floats down in slow motion, but the rest of you is kind of like a floating spirit out there. When Povetkin hit him with this uppercut in the fight, that's what happened to him. That's exactly what happened to Dillian White. So the guy you see walking around today still talking stuff and everything ain't the guy that got hit by this uppercut. That guy that got hit by that uppercut, he's still laying right there. But the Dillian White you see walking around. But Reggie, what were your thoughts when you heard the WBC tell him, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back?
I got no feelings on it because I don't really care about Dillian White. He ain't really done much of anything. I don't see why there was a reason why he thought he will be put in position of being placed anywhere or even being, what was he, a mandatory or something? I don't know why he'd think that. He needs to go out here, do other work, put on fights that people need to see. The WBC also looks at it from a standpoint of if Dillian White becomes the champion, what does it do for us? His fights won't generate any money. Dillian White becoming a champion. This is the other side of this game, man. You need to be able to what they want with the way boxing is structured and with the money and greed in it. They want to at least have somebody who's marketable, who ain't gonna fall too far off the deep end when it comes to the ability to make money. Dillian White becoming a champion, which I don't see him beating any of the guys who holds the belts now. But what sanctioning body wants this guy to touch the belt? I mean, they don't want to deal with that. Who's going to turn to a Dillian White fight and sell it out to where they can get Dillian White to generate, whatever sums of money, and the sanction bodies are looking at to take their percentage, and they want it to be high. They fall way off. Dillian White ain't even pulling with what Tyson Fury can pull off. Tyson Fury ain't that big of a star, but he's bigger than what Dillian White is. If Dillian White defeats Tyson Fury, does he rise in prominence? I don't know. I doubt it. But that's another reason. There's other heavyweights that they're looking forward to. They can put in those positions. And then again, they want to see what they can get if Anthony Joshua is able to become champion. They rather see that. They rather see what they can get if Usyk becomes champion and lining Tyson Fury up with that. They don't want to have Dillian White in the way and interfere with that. So that's one of the other reasons. He can go off and fight. And what Dillian White should have been doing is getting on this Luis Ortiz pay-per-view fight card rather than sitting back and trying to pull whatever maneuvers he did, because he did pull out of somebody's fight. Wasn't Dillian White supposed to fight somebody? Wallach or something. He was supposed to fight Ottawa, and then he pulled that crap. So, yeah, he definitely should be taken off the table. Because as soon as he pulled out of that fight, all of a sudden he's back heeled and ready to talk about Tyson Fury. Him and Eddie Hearn were foul as hell for pulling that.
Yeah, and Hearn should be really held at fault right there too, because he has held White around there, keeping him in the graces and stirring up mess, because the guy is not a good fighter or anything. It's just he's been available. He's like a everyman. You know, it's like you get him to do the dirty jobs and everything, stick his hand in the ish, you know, and like that. And you know, you ain't got to worry about nobody saying, you got somewhere I could wash my hands, because the Dillian just will do that, you know. He get down on his knees for those folks over there. And he would be down on his knees if he ever got in there with Deontay Wilder, and they never really wanted to fight. They just perpetuated something. He was just used as a shield, human shield, huh? Go stand out there and take them bullets, boy. That's what he was. And you know, so good riddance. So he's falling back into the ranks. You know what I mean?
Right. He's Eddie Hearn's Gomer Pyle.
Exactly. And what a pile of, you know what he is. So that's it for him. But yeah, well, let's move on to the other news that was kind of big this week, Reggie, where Canelo, he done already said we're barely 2 weeks beyond his fight with Caleb Plant, and he already put news out there that he's going to go up to cruiserweight and take on the African guy up there, the Nigerian dude, M'Baku from Black Panther. He going out there to fight. I'm sorry that I'm laughing at my own stuff, man, but listen. Where in the hell they come up with that, Reggie? That was the plan the whole time, because they don't want to face David Benavidez, okay? So it's quite natural that going into the Caleb Plant fight, they had already discussed if he was victorious with Caleb Plant, which was pretty much a 80% chance he was going to win, right? They already knew what they were. That's why they announced it so fast. When have you heard them announce a fight so fast? Unless it was a fight that was already on the table, you know, due to someone being victorious. Well, if I beat him, I'll fight this guy. You know, like when Earl Spence beat, who was it he beat? Was it Danny? No, it wasn't Danny Garcia. Who did he beat before? And then when he, you know, Sean Porter, you know, they already knew that fight was going to be next, you know. So they were talking about it. Well, they didn't talk about it in the ring that night. But like I said, Canelo done made a deal with somebody already for next year. I mean, come on, man. You can't make this stuff up. And that guy is not somebody anybody knows. Anybody had him on their radar. Nobody was checking for the dude. He was in obscurity. His name has probably been said more this week than in his entire career. And the funny thing about it is, the play is to go through these changes and to come back and clean the clock of a faded and outdated Triple G, which I said that on our show, Reggie. What was it? Almost a year ago. I said all of this acting like he don't want Triple G in the third fight. They're going to age the guy out to where when he gets in there with him again, he's going to beat him so badly, it's going to make it look like Triple G never competed with him. Or he's going to stop him. And that's all benefiting Canelo, because what was their second fight? 3 years ago? I'm asking, Reggie, is it?
I think so.
Yeah, so if their second fight was 3 years ago, and Canelo has been on this upswing of defeating these guys that don't really belong in the ring with him and everything, so he's winning, and winning impressively over those hand-selected guys. Triple G has come back and fought a couple of fights. One, he looked like he lost, and that was the one against his fellow countrymen. And then that other fight he took, the guy was like making him look bad. He was slow. He was like, you know, getting hit, but he could take a punch, so it wasn't like he was getting hurt or anything. And now he getting ready to fight this dude Murata, right, in December. So if Murata has anything, Reggie, Triple G is in trouble, bro, because he's on the downside. He's like almost 40 now. But if he gets past this guy with his power, if he's able to stop him and get him out of there, which the refs are going to help him. If he shakes the guy up, you might see the ref just jump in there and wave it off without the guy hitting the canvas or anything. That's to save him for Canelo. But he's talking about fighting this guy in the spring and then later in the year fighting Triple G. That's his swan song, Reggie. Triple G. After he fight Triple G, he going to put Triple G out of business, and then he's going to leave the business because the walls are closing in on him. The ground is shrinking under his feet. And there's just only so many times you can avoid these guys. But they've let this guy age. He's like 3 years older, and I'm telling you, go back and watch that fight with him and what's his countryman's name? Also fought Charlo.
Oh, Derevchenko.
Derevchenko actually won that fight that they fought. He just didn't get the decision. And Triple G didn't look good that night. And he fought a fight after that, and he looked really slow and sluggish in that fight, trudging his way to a victory. And now he getting ready to fight another dude after like over a year or something in activity. I mean, come on. I see the writing. And I said this. I said that was what Canelo's play was going to be, to age Triple G out for the third stanza between the two of them so he'll look like head and shoulders above him. You know, like there's such a separation. Like, see, Triple G is just not good as Canelo, and Canelo has gone on and won all these other belts in different divisions, and Triple G has been right there, and Canelo can come back and beat him up. I'm telling you the play, bro. This is the play. What are your thoughts on it?
Man, because I was looking up somebody you talked, because I remember, and this is on my main channel, that's why I can't got the video. The thing with Makambu, why his name was familiar when I seen him, and I recognized this stonehead dude. This is a dude who Don King had to block one of his fights, and this is why it puts Canelo in the position of out of nowhere, the thin blue sky, all of a sudden he jumps to cruiserweight, is that Macabre was the guy that Don King ended up blocking this fight that was put on. Don King signs this dude, and then he comes to find out this guy got a fight without him even knowing. It was the WBC setting up this fight for Macabre. And Don King put a cease and desist in the way for that. It was like, how the hell y'all scheduling my fighter for something? And now it all makes sense why Mauricio and all of a sudden can sit in front of his board and say, oh, yeah, mysteriously we approve this. Yeah, y'all been setting something up with Macabre. Y'all been setting this thing up probably for a long time for Canelo to probably make this move. And who knows?
And see, that's what I was saying.
Wait, let me say this. Mm-hmm. And I wonder why Bridgerweight was created. Maybe Canelo's going there.
Very well may be, man. But check this out. When you remember when Canelo said he wasn't going to fight no more Mexican fighters, right? Well, that was shortly, I believe, it was shortly after he beat up on Chavez's son, right? And who was there? Benavidez. And, you know, word is in the gym, right, about fighters and who's on the come up, who's on the way out, stuff like that, declining, ascending fighters. Well, word in the gym was always positive about Benavidez, you know, David, not his brother. And it's just a matter of where he's going to settle with his weight, because he's a big kid, and when he's not fighting, he balloons. But he was always a fat kid growing up. So Canelo, surveying the landscape of the middleweight divisions, he realized these things. So it was like he had to make a choice of how he was going to move. And with the enlisted assistance of the WBC, Benavidez, the title was stripped from him twice. One for him messing around with drugs, you know, not PEDs, but just real drugs, chemical drugs. And then the second time, they said he blew it on the scales. But did he really? Or did they alter the scales? Because as soon as the belt was stripped from him, instead of Canelo fighting someone legitimate for the vacant belt, they just let him fight a fight against Anvil Yildirim for, and it's like on the same night when Anthony Durrell was fighting, who had lost to Benavidez on cuts and everything. So quite naturally, Durrell was the guy that Canelo should have been fighting for the vacant belt. But they messed around, made it a legitimate thing where he could get that belt, which he never would have went for while Benavidez had it. Now, he got the belt, and Benavidez is on the comeback because he just had his fight last weekend, and he told everybody that would listen. He was like, okay, it's time for my shot now. I want my belts back, and Canelo won a real challenge. Here I am. But they had already planned their exit, Reggie, after the Caleb Plant situation. Because even if Plant went the distance, he wasn't going to get that decision. If you look at where they had the scorecards, it was like Plant wasn't even in the fight, just like we've seen some of those other fights that they get to the scorecards. It's like they don't even give more than a round to the guy. It's like, really? So they're going to ensure that he loses regardless, and then they're going to make sure that Canelo picks up those pieces and goes on about his business. Boxing, it's like if you watch this stuff, you could actually see their play. And the way they're doing it and allowing Canelo all his free space is really insulting to the intelligence of man. It's like, I don't know, man. But they're doing this stuff over and over and over again. The only thing about this guy M'Baku, if he could get in there and just go upside Canelo's head, just being a bigger and physically stronger guy, get him up out of there, that would throw a huge wrench into their plans. He probably might not make it home to his family, but at the same time, it would be good for the sport of boxing. That's what I had to say about that.
Yeah, no, that's all I got, man. But it like I stated, this Macabre thing it goes right back to the thing in 2020 where Don King had to step in because the WBC's working with this dude. So somehow this dude's a pawn for the WBC. He's gonna probably come in here just to lay down for Canelo, and that really what it points to. Because Macabre comes out of no goddamn where, out of just a thin blue air, like I said. And I don't even know if he's a regular champion because when he went to take that fight, I don't, it's probably one of them under tier belts that they have all through these sanctioning bodies. I don't know if he was the full champion or however the heck they do that, but the fact that they put a fight on, knowing that damn well this was the Don King fighter, and Don King having to take legal actions against Mauricio Sulaiman. So they kind of hide behind that because this wasn't, Macabre wasn't so much of a well-known fighter. But Don King's reason for signing this guy, as stated back then, was Don King was looking to set up some dang Rumble in the Jungle type fight with this guy. So it's like, who is he trying to set this Rumble in the Jungle thing with? You need a huge name. Allah. Now we got him right here. I don't know if it was going to be Usyk at the time, but with Usyk moving up, now we got Canelo there. Rumble in the Jungle, essay style.
Yeah. And that's also a thing that they're going to really celebrate he beat this guy, because that's supposed to be a warrior, huh? From Wakanda, huh? Yeah. That's going to make them, their pride swell, huh? But I ain't falling for that garbage. I know better. So let's move on to the other news of the week, Reggie, where it's been announced that come January on Fox pay-per-view, man, we're going to see Luis King Kong Ortiz come back. And he's going to be taking on Prince Charles Martin, and Frank Sanchez on the undercard. I guess as a co-main, is going to be taking on Carlos Negron. And then yet and still we'll have even more fighters on there. This is going to be an all heavyweight deal going on here with Jonathan Rice rematching Michael Coffey. And Jonathan Rice was the guy I was trying to think of, Reggie, last week when I was saying he got a jab and he could beat AJ. When I was saying that, that's who I was trying to think of, Rice. But yeah, man, this is going to be interesting. A night of heavyweight action. We can always enjoy those, right? The night of the heavyweights, because something always happens unexpectedly, you know. Frank Sanchez beat up on Effie Ajaba, so he's coming off of a really good victory. And King Kong Ortiz has been just looking for the opportunity. Joe Joyce said his name, and when King Kong said, Joe Joyce fell off the map. We ain't heard nothing else from him. And Prince Charles Martin says, man, forget this. I want to fight, and he wants to try to come back. This is going to be a battle of southpaws, Reggie, because both King Kong and Prince Charles are southpaw fighters. So that's going to be interesting within itself. Your thoughts on the news that broke this week about this card?
No, I think it's good, man, to get all these heavyweights up on there. And, I mean, who doesn't want to see heavyweights? And I think this, in the way that it's set up with the names that are on there, people are going to get stopped all throughout this card. There's going to be a lot of stopping in this card. And I think that's really what fans like to see when they come to watch the sport. Somebody's definitely getting knocked out. I think it's going to be a good matchup between Ortiz and Martin. I think Frank Sanchez and Negron is going to be good. I think he's going to dust Negron, but that's good. It's going to be a good look for Frank Sanchez. And the fact that he's back in the ring this quick, he's staying real active. Coming out of that Reynoso gym, he's knowing to stay active. Just got to keep fighting. Maybe he'll line himself up with the winner of Charles versus Ortiz. And then you got Washington. He's kind of on the back end, but still, people want to see a heavyweight in there. They want to see big heavyweight up in there, win, lose, or draw, see him get knocked out. And then also Coffey trying to avenge that Jonathan Rice knockout who derailed his momentum. He was on a rapid rise in the heavyweight division as one of these new arrival guys in there trying to get work, trying to stay active. And he met a huge roadblock, man. A roadblock that totaled the vehicle. But he's going to try to come back at it. I don't know what he's going to change up. He's going to change a lot. He just can't get hit by this guy because this guy has the power to really rock him. But and then I commend him for going back in there after the way he lost that fight to want to go back in there and avenge that. I tip my hat off to Coffey, but want to see what he can change up. So I'm intrigued by that. And I think that the way in which the card is ordered, even though some people, I don't know if people are crying because it's pay-per-view. I hear people cry all day because they got to pay a pay-per-view. I still like the thing. And I think that it's put in the proper order of how they have it set up, starting it off with Joe Washington, moving it up to this rematch, moving it up to Frank Sanchez, who's looking to get in position against these two guys as Martin makes his way back up to the top spot. And here's Martin getting the pay-per-view event, ain't having a cry, itch and moan, chasing after somebody. He got the fight with the guy that many people have avoided, and he's looking to get back into another contention for a title. He was a champion. He's looking to try to get back in that position because it's wide open in this game right now. So Martin's doing the right thing. But in matter of fact, Charles Martin called out Dillian White, and Dillian White ducked him. Right. So forget Dillian White.
Yeah, man. And these guys are willing to fight, Reggie. They're not worried about their records. They're not worried about, their positioning. They're just trying to fight. They're trying to move up, make some money and move up, or, move period, because their careers have been stagnated, So hats off to these guys, man. That's all we could ask of the fighters, is that they just get their butts in the ring and compete. And this is a full card of heavyweight fighters. Gerald Washington has lost a few times. The fact that he's willing to get back in there and give it another go, I mean, come on. That's what you want to see out of guys. Charles Martin has improved since his loss to Kaunaki and his loss to AJ. So, and King Kong has lost to Wilder twice. I mean, Frank Sanchez is still undefeated, but at the same time, one of these guys will probably be his next opponent. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, I just want to see the fights take place. And when there's movement in the heavyweight division like this, the two men who hold the titles, they can't avoid these guys all day. They're going to have to either vacate titles, retire, or something of that sort, because we're talking about, what is this, six heavyweights on this card alone? Eight heavyweights on this card. So it's like, the only one who had a title on here was Charles Martin. And there you can see where his rededication comes into play, because he's seen these other guys beat AJ and stuff like that, and he's like, man, I could have did that. You know what I mean? But he was so happy just to take that almost $10 million that Matchroom was offering him. That's a hard thing to turn down. But he wasn't ready for a fight like that, just like AJ, But he didn't have the type of people behind him, running his career for him and stuff like AJ did. So, Al Heyman probably advised him, hey, man, they're going to give you this much money. I would take it if I were you. So, and that's what happened.
Yeah, absolute.
Now, somebody in the chat, Show Me, says, why we don't have love for Andre? What is going on with us? If Andre was Mexican, he would be financed Betty off. We suck. I
want to respond to that, because I don't always show favor in my responses to Andrade, but it's not so much like real hate towards him. It's with me. It's that Andrade has forgot who the hell he is. Andrade needs to fight. Andrade needs to stop chasing and crying at the people, because a lot of these top guys don't want to fight. They don't want to fight each other. They all make excuses. Not just saying Andrade do it. All of them are doing it now. So it's like Andrade needs to set the path for himself and fight. Don't go down the Gary Russell lane of running a career. Fight whoever is out there. There's unknown dudes in this game who just want to get in their fight, and go out there and crush them. And that's the issue I got with Andrade. You don't see him enough, but then he complained about just chasing after the Triple G's. Triple G's is nobody anyway. He ain't fighting nobody. Why not ask the question why we hate on Triple G? My answer would be the same thing. Triple G ain't doing nothing. So it ain't so much Andrade being hate on, well, from my perspective, because it's probably other black folks who hate on black folks because they black and have success. But my thing with Andrade, he ain't active enough. So how can I cheer him on?
And I just opened this show talking positively about him. The only thing I said was he don't need the microphone in his hand. We just need to see him get his butt in the ring and fight people. And fighting like he fought tonight would benefit him tremendously. So how is that hating on him? That's giving him credit. It really, see, understand this. And this is for everybody that's out there in the chat, everybody that's listening, everybody catch this on replay. Some of you people need to focus up on who you're talking to and talking about. Huh? Ain't nobody said nothing negative about Demetrius Andrade in this conversation where we opened the show talking about his fight tonight. If someone else was saying something negative about him elsewhere, you can take that conversation there. But understand, here when Reggie and I talk about these fighters, we talk honestly from our position and standpoint of how we are looking at the sport of boxing. But there's never any hate. We love the sport. We don't care about these fighters so much that we want to lie down and defend them. Huh? We talk about them the way they should be spoken of. Now, guys that you really should be getting on their crawl about and stuff, those are the people like Dillian White. We talked about him in a negative way because he's a negative individual and he's brought some negative BS to the heavyweight division They still waiting on that B sample, huh? And why they switched those gloves on Oscar Rivas. What's going on with that? Where were you, show me, when that stuff was going down? I sure enough didn't hear you saying nothing about it in the chats back then. And it took place. So Demetrius Andrade, as long as he do what he did tonight and they keep the microphone away from him, he'll be just fine. But he's got to fight. At the end of the day, isn't that what they're in there for? To fight? We don't want to hear their philosophies on the world and, if they're going into politics and all that. We don't care about that. We care about them lacing it up and mixing it up. At the end of the day. Period. That is all. Salute to J.H. Dixon out there. He says, salute OG, is too many fans of boxers and not enough fans of the sport. And you know why they did this? That's because people don't study the sport. If you study the sport and found out who was on the scene before who you know now, you'll find that there have been some great things happen and some horrible things happen. So time changes, the date changes, but man don't change. Man is who he is. Fallible beings. Okay, show me. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, your last comment. But as far as that, I think that should stop right there. Right there. You can take that out the back door. Huh? But Reggie, this is going to be a dynamite card. I think it's coming in January. PBC on Fox. That's going to be some good stuff, man. I can't wait for that. Can't wait for that. Anytime they put together a night of heavyweights, you got to love it. Even when we had the Fury Wilder 3 fight, there were heavyweights on that card, and look forward to that kind of thing, because when the heavyweight division gets to moving and moving in a positive manner, the rest of boxing toes along. That has always been the ideology about the sport. As so go the heavyweights, so goes the rest of boxing. And we've been seeing, even the Fury Wilder fight, third fight, it was a good fight. And action-packed, knockdowns, both guys and stuff like that. And look at what we've had since. We've had some damn knockdown, drag-out boxing. So that's what we live for. And the hits keep coming. We got something coming up tomorrow night. And I think it's time we go ahead and talk about that. Let's talk about that, Reggie. The fight with Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter for tomorrow evening, man. ESPN Plus pay-per-view. What do you think about this?
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. I think these are two serious guys going in there. I like the weight that they came in there. It showed that they took this fight very serious with almost half a pound to spare. They really came in here in tremendous weight, man. And they looked great on the scales. The face-off was intense. And seeing where Bud is mentally, Bud is locked into another realm. He don't want to be bothered. He don't want to talk. He ain't got time for interviews. He just ready to get into his action. And I like that about Bud. And I look at what people state what Bud doesn't do and this and that and all that other cornball stuff I hear from people. Is the fact that this guy is a fighter. And superstar fighters don't always have to talk. Mike Tyson's one of the biggest guys in the dang sport. He wasn't a media darling. He didn't even speak to the media. People talked about the way he talked, but he had a promoter who did his job into creating this aura behind this guy. Crawford has an aura behind him, and it should have been something pushed. And I always use this thing for people who like to bash Bud, is I always ask them, did you like Marshawn Lynch? And then you see these hypocritical people, oh man, Marshawn was the greatest and did it. Marshawn was the same way when it came to media relations as you see with Bud Crawford. These are action-based guys. They ain't got time for all that talking. And it's nothing worse than somebody who can do a bunch of talking and go in the ring and get smacked all in the mouth. Bud is tapped in. He's locked in. He ain't got time to hear corny questions from corny interviewers. I think maybe he'll be different if ESPN did a better job at diversity hiring and they had people who Bud can relate to. He don't relate to them corny fools that they had putting microphones in his face. But in this moment with how serious this fight is, Bud knows everything that Sean represents. Sean represents realness in the sport. Sean represents seriousness. Sean represents not being half-assed in this fight. Any opponent that lacks off in training, Sean will expose it. You got to come in the best of conditioning, the best of shape, going into a fight with Sean Porter because he's relentless. He ain't about to back up off of nothing. And many people who wrote Sean Porter off when they saw one of the top welterweights going in the battle against him and end up being a super tough battle for Errol Spence. And the same thing can turn out for Terrence Crawford. And I think Terrence Crawford may be a little bit bugged with the fact that when he look at this fight, this is a fight where people are looking to see what he do to compare it to Errol Spence because there's a lot of comparative analysis going on with what they do in the ring against each other. But it don't mean crap. Even if but it again can't even say if his fight is more of a hard fight than Earl because Earl fight was a hard ass fight against Sean Porter. So, but if he goes in here and stops Sean, I mean, it's going to be like, dang, this dude Bud is bad. But that don't mean that Bud will go in there, that you can use that information and add it to some critical analysis of he may do the same thing to Earl Spence. No, it's about different styles and what they can do. But this dude is locked into this fight. I can even see, when I was seeing the press conference, Bud didn't give two damns about that press conference. He ready to go. He ready to fight. And looking how he walked up to Sean in that face off is like, man, this is a mean dude, man. They lucky that dude ain't a dang heavyweight because Bud's a mean dude, man. But that's my thoughts on it.
And yeah, Crawford is an interesting individual in the sport of boxing because he's basically what people like to see. But there's something that blinds people within our own community. And that's the fact that you feel that you have to get behind one sole individual over anyone else. And because the individual that you get behind, you can't support anyone else. Nobody else is worth a damn in all of this, which is simply not true. You're going to have Michael Jordan, and then you're going to have Scottie Pippen. You know what I mean? Both are great players, and they do different things, but people like what they like. But you have to respect what a person contributes and brings. We have a region here that is the largest region in the U.S., and that's Texas. Huh? And people want to get behind Earl Spence because Texas is a large place, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Earl is from New York, from what I understand. So he's adopted in Texas. But what if Earl wasn't around? Who would you guys be supporting then? I've watched over the years when Earl Spence Jr. was still a contender coming up. I'm talking about like with 10 fights or so. You know, people starting to say his name in the sport in welterweight, and but what I noticed is that as Terrence Crawford got bigger and moved up to divisions, people began to turn him into an enemy. Not a rival, an enemy. This young man, who has a heck of a story himself, coming from where he comes from, it's like this whole thing about black. And when I say black, I'm not talking about ethnicity. I'm talking about complexion. The bias in our community against our own is ridiculous. It's insulting. It's embarrassing. We are a wounded animal and ignorant all at the same time. Do you not realize that if Terrence Crawford is successful in the sport of boxing, if Earl Spence is successful in the sport of boxing, if Showtime Shawn Porter be as successful, or even Keith Thurman, you have a variety of talent that is worth banging your chest with pride over. Do not the Latin race do the same for their own? Mexicans show pride for each and every one of their champions and contenders that show themselves to be worth the while in the sport, worth contributing, worth being on the cusp of championship caliber themselves. But why do we have to make enemy of our own pitting ourselves against each other? I'm not questioning why do they have to fight each other. They have to fight each other. That's how you make money. That's their profession. But when you want to take it out of the arms of competitiveness and turn it into something else, us against them. It's like these fools that be out in the community and they don't want you to come to their block because you on that block. Huh? You don't own the damn block, but you going to tell people, oh, because you from over there, we'll jump on you and bust you in your head or shoot you or attack you or whatever because you from a few blocks away. Territorial. But the police drive up and down through your communities every single day, and whenever they feel like it, they'll pull over and go upside your head with a billy club or throw the cuffs on you and take you for a ride and everything whenever they get ready. Where's the defending the community on that? Why can't there just be rivalry? He's good, he's good. Let's see who the best. Let's see it a few times. And if it's really good when they mix it up, they're going to make big money because people going to tune in. But you don't know how to love yourself like that. You don't know how to give respect like that. And for those of you who like to use the word hate, oh, you hating. No, you hating on your own. You hate yourself. You hate those that look like you. You hate those who live next to you. You hate those who birthed you into this world. And you hate those who gonna take you out. Because they're all a part of the same community. Now, who's truly the hater? I tell you all the time that the only way to get ahead is together. You build bridges, not burn them. This fight that's taking place between these two gentlemen tomorrow night is representing class of the sport. Shawn Porter is a class individual. He has had success and setbacks in the sport of boxing professionally. He's a person you can support, you can get behind. But so is Bud Crawford. Bud's story is a great deal different from Shawn's, but his talent is off the chart. Are you angry because he is shown to be capable in more ways than a few know? In something so physical and in some terms barbaric, but you hate on that. But he's been able to put his family out of poverty with his fists. You look over at Earl Spence. He didn't have to do this. He chose it. And that's a different type of individual within itself. That's to be celebrated. And he's done the same. His family may have come from a certain stature, but he's definitely increased it, hasn't he? That's to be respected. So how is one better than the other? Porter got a dad that took his son and turned him into a world champion. From a very young age, he worked with his son. That's commendable. How many fathers aren't even hanging around to show their sons anything, let alone turn them into a world-class individual in a professional sport who's parlayed that into being on television, having podcasts and everything. Positive stuff. How many times do the example need to be set before your own kind step in the middle of that and turn it into something else? Negative.
All the time.
It's utterly insulting. It's embarrassing. And it don't seem like it's going to end anytime soon. Because a new one is born every day. Fool, that is. Because the ignorant give way to their ignorance. Undoubtedly, you have no understanding about what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it's on tape. And maybe it'll touch somebody the correct way. Because you throw a rock and a hurt dog will yell, right? These two men facing off tomorrow evening will be bringing some of the best of what the sport has to offer. Even though I have my thoughts on who will win, I don't want to see either man hurt. I want to see both men return to their families. But most of all, out of it all, I just want to see a great fight with high competition and it be engaging and entertaining. And we learn more about each man as an individual because they came together collectively for this fight. But I'm not going to take away from their accomplishments and pretend as if they've done nothing, like so many of you have, including some content creators out here. Because that's wrong. That's wrong. And you can get insulted when they call you haters, but are you really not one? When you can't say anything good about either man. You don't want to acknowledge any good about either man. Huh? These are men of accomplishment and merit and deserve respect. Neither man has popped dirty, huh? In a sport where we see so many of them today. Valpeds, huh? We talked about White a little while ago. Canelo, huh? These are names in the sport, prominent. Those are the kind of people you hate on. You hate that they ruin the sport that you claim that you love. Did you catch that? I don't think you did. But I said it anyway. Tomorrow night's fight also represents something in the sport of boxing that comes with championship caliber, spirit, the elusive pound for pound representation by Terrence Bud Crawford, and having come up from lower weight classes, been successful in multiple weight classes as champion, and has done it the right way and stands head and shoulders amongst his contemporaries. If you can make him a larger man and put him in a greater division, he still be right there at the top because of how he performs. And at the end of the day, that's what you ask for. But back to that being dark. People talk about that, man. Being dark is beautiful. My mother was dark, very dark. One of the most beautiful, dark women that walked this earth. When you talk about someone being dark and be so disrespectful of that, you're talking about a seed in the womb that I came from. I know no other. And what's worse, you're talking about yourself as well. That's all I got on that, Reggie. But we can get back to talk about the fight. What'd you say?
I said well spoken, because that's the way I feel. That's why I don't listen to a lot of folks.
Yeah, man. But see, even if you're not listening to them, they out here poisoning the minds of other people. Remember, one of the greatest selling points in this country, possibly the world, is how to do something. You could write a how-to book, you can do a how-to show or whatever, and you'll get plenty of listeners and everything because people like to be told what to do, how to think, where to go. They like that. One of the reasons why prisons are so full of folks, because they want to be told what to do. They don't want to be independent of mind and thought. It's too much work.
Right.
Yeah. And they don't want that. So they'd rather do something indiscriminately wrong and find themselves behind those bars. You get up at this time, you take your shower, you eat at this time, you go, lights out at this time. You know, hey, that's really made for them, right? And the same folks don't want to go to work, but they'll beg you for some change or some money. But you say, well, that hardware store around the corner is hiring. Man, I ain't getting up early in the morning for no $15 an hour, for no $10 an hour, for no $8 an hour. Don't it beat the emptiness in your hand as far as the change you've been begging for? Or you want to catch that vulnerable person that's coming out of the bank or the currency has changed that may have cashed a check or made out a money order so they can take care of some business that's their own, and you want to take from them. You fool. There's a special place for people like you. And when you run across the wrong party, they send you straight to it. Life is about choices. My man, legendary TOPCATZ says you can choose, lose, or stay confused. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I got on that, Reggie. It had to be said. But these two men, they're going to give us something. Yep, they're going to give us something good. Now, do you have a pick in it, or you just want to let it unfold before you?
I just want to unfold. Like I said, I like both of these guys.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately they got to fight, but it's the fortunate side. They're going to bring fireworks. And I'm here to watch the explosion of great colors and all that stuff. and loud bang. So I'm anticipating it.
Yes, and it's going to be great because, like I said, the talent is there for them as well as their what how they fight. Because I won't say styles, because both men have made adjustments in their career. Sean, as of late, but Bud has always been able to do it on the fly. That's a gift that he has. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who is able to make the better adjustments and be effective off of that. My support of Bud is deeply rooted and enriched in some of what I spoke on and a lot of how he has performed as a professional fighter. I love fighters who can raise their game to another level and fighters who look for challenges. This is something he has done consistently, and people still have disdain for him. So if this be the type of fight where Sean presents a certain type of challenge for him and he has to raise the level to that, to meet that or exceed that, that's what I look forward to. But I think that Bud is special. And I don't think that the knockouts that he's been getting since he's been at welterweight, I don't think that that's just, you know, because of who he fought. I think it's because of how he fought and what's going on within him when he fights. He does not appear to be a guy looking to allow the judges to decide outcomes for him. So at any time, from first to 12, he may still be looking to get a guy up out of there. That's enticing, watching a fighter like that. So, but there's some more fight news, Reggie, before we get up out of here, that came to fruition over the recent days. We're gonna get a chance to see Devin Haney finally in there with JoJo Diaz Jr. What do you think about that? And it's coming up fairly soon. I think it's at the end of the month, if not the 1st of December. What are your thoughts on this fight with these two guys?
No, I like this fight. This is going to be a highly competitive fight. I like JoJo Diaz. I like Devin Haney. I like both of these fighters. Would like to see Devin continue on his rise, but I ain't about to cut just because I like Devin Haney more doesn't mean I'm about to discount JoJo Diaz because he is a tough guy, very very tough fighter, and Devin has to be up on top of his job, taking these camps serious, which I know that the kid is, and he's gonna get everything he can handle in here against JoJo, and it's just gonna be who can separate from who as far as talent goes. It's gonna be a very tough fight, and this is another fight. I'm gonna just watch what happens with both guys. Like I said, I like both of these fighters. Favorite Devin a little bit more, but JoJo can mess around and change this. Even JoJo gave a super tough fight against Gary Russell. He started to come on in that fight. He's a tough guy, very very tough guy. Even the way he took the belts from Tevin Farmer, guy with a cut, never even worried once about that cut. Just battled through. Went there against the tough, rugged Fortuna, for whatever his name, Fortuna, and did his thing in there. This a bad dude. I like JoJo Diaz, but I'm ready for the fight.
Yeah, I think he's going to present Devin with some, some competitiveness that he may not have faced yet in his career. And I'll say this, if Devin does anything along the lines that can cause hurt to Diaz, Diaz is going to turn it up. He has shown us that in the past. And you can always enjoy a fighter that's going to bring it like that because Devin's going to have to solve this equation here. This man's not going to lay down for him. And if he discovers any visibly weakness in Devin, he's going to exploit that. I remember his match against Tevin Farmer. It was like once he saw that Farmer was having some kind of difficulty or whatever, he turned the heat up on Farmer. And by the way, Reggie, where the hell is Farmer? He went from being the most active fighter in boxing to like, I haven't seen him fight in a couple of years.
I think something, I just want to say this, in that fight, and when I think he was on Blue Blood, and I was riding, asking was something wrong, because watching that fight against, there was something neurological going wrong with Tevin Farmer in that fight, because all throughout that fight, he kept having like a Tourette-like twitch.
Yeah,
He
he
kept
was
twitching.
looking up and stuff. It's like, you know, it was really weird. And
Yeah,
I've
so
seen him
something,
fight before, and he wasn't doing that, you know?
yeah,
So
something neurological happened in that fight.
maybe he's not fighting anymore, and they just haven't announced it. But it's been a few years because that was his last fight, wasn't it, against Jojo Diaz?
Yep, that was it.
Wow, that's been almost 4 years ago. As far as maybe 4 years is too long. Maybe 3 years ago. But time has flown so fast. I wouldn't be surprised if it was almost 4 years ago. I don't have Boxwork open in front of me, but yeah, Tevin hasn't fought in a very long time. Very long time. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty darn good fight, Reggie. I think that we'll get to see some stuff about Devin Haney. And I think that what is really going on with Haney is he's grown from his last couple of fights, and he just wants to show the world what he has. You know what I mean? He's excited. He wants to get in there and mix it up. He want to fight everybody, you know, but you can't fight everybody. But it's great that a veteran like this is going to give him a shot, because there are still fighters out there that Jojo Diaz can beat. And I'm not talking about like I'm excluding Devin Haney, but I'm just talking about outside of Haney, there are guys he can still beat and be a champion again. So this is a good fight. Good fight for him, you know? And I look forward to it. It's nice to see that they, you know, that someone has decided to get in there with the guy, because we got to stop, you know, this whole thing like nobody wants to give a guy a shot. Got to fight, man. You got to fight. One of the other fights, Reggie, is the fight between Lopez and Kambosos Jr. will finally take place at the end of this month, November 27th. And we'll see if Kambosos has been able to keep his, you know, his focus and his spirit, because when the fight was first announced and everything, and then it had went to Triller, Kambosos looked like he was in a really strange place, as far, not strange, but a good place as far as wanting to take Teofimo to task, you know, and show him that he can whoop him. You know, he was really highly motivated, and all of those delays and everything could have taken some of the steam out of him, because you got to stop your camp and this and that and go back and restart it. So that's what I would be concerned with this. And Tio, who knows whether or not he was really going to fight intentionally or not, it doesn't affect him the same way, because he's not the opponent. You know what I mean? So if he knows that I ain't really got to get ready this time, because our plan is to face him then, you know, ahead. And Kambosos can't call that. So you don't know when the guy's going to pull out and stuff like that, and it could affect you, you know. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, I hope Kambosos beat the crap out of Tio. He was a good fighter, but I just have grown to dislike Tio, but not to discount him. That's why I'm saying I hope Kambosos beats the crap out of him and takes those belts. But I know Teofimo is the real deal. Serious, talented, young champion. But I think this kid Kambosos is super, super motivated, and I'm hoping he comes away as the new champion.
Yeah, it would be great to see it come off and to see what he really has in store for Tio, because for a moment it was really looking like he was going to be ripping this dude's head off. I don't know if all the delays have affected him, though, because it's a high possibility that it could have, Reggie, and that could have been done by design, because, you know, when you take the piss out of somebody you know, and they show up, they running on fumes, you know, something strange like that can happen. But I just hope for it to be a good fight. Hope for Kambosos to be able to show Teofimo a lesson or two, huh? Because I think he's been bad and he need to be spanked, huh? That's what I think. But yeah, man, let's get ready to turn everybody loose into their evening, man, and you know, let everybody know your final thoughts and everything and where they can find you.
Yes, indeed, man. Thank y'all for coming through, man. Y'all find me on Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, page 1 and 2. And I don't do just boxing. I talk about all sorts of stuff, and I read books. So that's what I do. That's what you like. Come and talk. I'm unadulterated. I really don't ask people to come to sub. I don't really want to try to ask people to come sub because a lot of people I don't even want subbing to my channel. But that's where I'm at. So Boxing Conversations, Reggie 1 and 2. But that's it.
Yeah. And you scare a few of them away too when you say I read books, because some of these fools don't read.
Exactly. I'm gonna keep reading this.
Man. It's like, man, he ain't even showing no pictures on the screen. Yeah, man, you know what it is. Shoot, man. But yeah, what a good night of boxing it was for the Zone. Again, you know, the Zone can show some fights. They wait till the end of the year to put on their best cards and matches, but they've shown some pretty solid cards the past couple of weeks, and I've been happy with that. But yeah, we're gonna get on up out of here, man, and looking forward to the fights tomorrow night. You gonna call? You gonna call them, Reggie?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. I'm calling that.
Okay, so you want to go over there and check out Reggie as he puts on the call for the fights. Please do so. Show that respect and that support. But yeah, it's gonna be tremendous, man. It's gonna be tremendous. I can't wait. Looking forward to that. And it is what it is. So yeah, this has been another Friday night chop session with Stormy B, man. We called this one episode 132. We called it Champion. Sometimes just a one-word explanation is just enough, huh? You talk about champion, you know what that's all about, man. So for my man, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, salute to everybody that's out there tuned in. Everybody catch us on the replay or whatever, and look forward to those fights tomorrow night. Peace to everybody. Protect your family. And we out of here. Catch you guys tomorrow for the post-fight show. Peace.
Peace.